All right, peace and much love. Zin Uru here. Welcome to the latest installment of Message from the Minista. This week's Message from the Minista is part 3 of a 4-part series titled Foundational Integrity. So this is part 3 of Foundational Integrity, and this week our title, what we're talking about this week, is intention. And so the title of this week's Message from the Minista is Intention requires action. Intention requires action. Week 1, we talked about attention, not intention, attention, and how attention, what we pay attention to, pays. If we pay attention to our health pays attention to us. If we pay attention to something that's health, love, awareness, and wealth, something peace, love, unity, safely having fun, when we pay attention to those principles, to say the divine performance as well, that when we pay attention to hip hop itself, that hip hop pays attention to us. You know, it pays attention to us. What we're looking at is looking back at us. So to be wise with what we pay attention to. And we had a week meditation, and what was the subject? We would meditate for that whole week. For the first 7 days, we just pick an ideal, like peace or prosperity, or even peace and prosperity, or a certain quote that's the ideal persona, the ideal person that we are becoming, and then to meditate on that for 18 minutes a day for 7 days straight. And then last week in Foundational Integrity Part 2, what we had what was called the Integrity Code. That was last week's title, the Integrity Code. And last week we talked about how integrity is a code that is within us, that integrity is wholeness, integrity is oneness, integrity is a solid foundation. And we also looked at integrity as the integrity of a tree and the way its roots are its foundation, giving it flexibility, our ability to be flexible in life, you know, to follow life's outcome willingly, to go with the flow, to be like water, my friend. And so this week, and last week we had a meditation for a self-empowerment goal. So for those who followed that this week, for the last 7 days, you would have been working on a self-empowerment goal, something, a word, a phrase, a quote, just something that you were looking at, that you hand wrote out, and about self-empowerment, and then meditated on that for 18 minutes a day minimum for 7 days. Talked about it in our regular conversations throughout the week. And meditation, as when I'm talking about meditation, always remember, I'm talking about, the meditation of walking, the meditation of, we could be washing dishes, but have our mind in a state of meditation where we're contemplating something, we're thinking about something, and not always listening or watching something just because our phone is near as well. So this week, part 3 of Foundational Integrity is going to be, intention requires action. Intention requires action. And the reason that I thought about this week is because there's this old saying that I completely disagree with, and it never sat well with me when I was growing up. And you would hear this old saying that people say, oh yeah, well, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. And what it was supposed to mean is that, just because you wanted to do something good, but you did something bad, that's the road to hell. You think you're doing something good, but you're doing something bad. But, that's not correct in any way, shape, or form, because intention requires action. There is no intention without action, even if it's non-action at times, even if it's just being still at times. But intention requires action. Therefore, for somebody to say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, no. The road to hell is paved with wishing and fairy tales and good thoughts. And not even good thoughts in that way, but the road to hell is paved with like a fantasy. That's the word I was looking for, fantasy. The road to hell is paved with fantasy, fantasy land. That's the road to hell, for real. Who owns CNN? Disney. What does CNN create? Fantasy land. That's the road to hell. in real time. CNN is hell on earth. Mainstream media is hell in earth. It's in the world, really. It's really not part of the actual earth itself. It's the mental construct of the world that humanity is created for itself. But I was reminded this week that there is one earth, but there can be billions of worlds. From people's perspective, a Taoist master was talking about this. What was it? I forgot what the name of his name skips me right now. But he's speaking about how, the world is how, his interpretation of the world is how we each perceive what's going on outside of nature. Finances, relationships is part of nature, but what's going on outside of nature, the construct of unnatural living. And that we all see it and participate in it to certain degrees. But when we come to intention, we want to be very specific about, we'll get to the definition of intention and intent, which is, what intention is. It's about our intent. What is our intent? What do we intend to do? The reason I say intention requires action is because if we intend to do something, and when we get to the definition, we're going to read that, it means that we are in the process of doing it. We're not just sitting there wishing for it to happen, having this fantasy, this dream of us doing it, but then never actually taking action to fulfill that intention. So oftentimes we'll hear intention is the language of the universe, and wow, that's a powerful statement. And I agree with it. There's many languages to the universe, but intention as the language to the universe listens to our intention, which is part of how we feel when we're doing something. The universe, God knows why we're doing what we do. God is hip to our hop, always, in all ways. Always, in all ways, God is hip to our hop. Now the question then becomes, are we always hip to our hop? Do we always know why we do what we do? Are we intelligent movement springing forward? Because our intention then will, HIP, we can make a great acronym with intention in it. That hip, that knowing, and then that hop, that movement. Intention, that knowing of why we're moving and we're doing what we're doing, and that action, that hop, which is an action. Intention requires action. Hip requires hop. You can't have just hip. I'm a hip. I am hip. Oh yeah? Well, I am hop. Hip requires hop. Intelligence requires movement. Because if the intelligence doesn't spark movement, then it's not intelligence. Or it's unconscious of itself, or it's afraid to move, or all kind of things that are holding people back. But when we're free, when we're like, I know why I move. I know why I say what I say. I know why I paint what I paint. I know why I work for what I work for. I know why I have this relationship with so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. I know why I study this book. I know why I eat this food. I know why I exercise this way, and so on and so forth. See, we're using intention all the time, and some people's intention is sparked by fear. Fear and worry and stress and all the ways of the world. Afraid to step out of one's comfort zone. Knowing, there's the hip. This is where unconsciousness is. For if you want to go deeper, the awareness section talks about this in the fourth overstanding of the gospel of hip hop and the H law, health, love, awareness. The awareness section talks about in consciousness. You might want to go study that if this is how you're feeling, if you're relating to this, because we've all been there. I know I've been here, I've been there, but you get to this feeling where you know what you want to do, but you're almost like frozen. You feel there's something inside, but you're like a little bit frozen in time, right? And this is where courage and the breaking through comes in. This is the way that the plant is strong when it breaks through its seed. when it finally sprouts through a seed, is because it has to push through that shell and it has to crack that shell. But because of the power of pushing and the strengthening of pushing against that shell, when it comes up, it then has the power and is strong enough to push through the earth, which is actually softer than that shell. Then it has the strength to push through the earth, which is into the air, and the air is softer than the earth. See how the density works? It goes from a dense seed, okay, a dense idea in a seed, and it's pushing and it's struggling, and it's there's water, and the water codes are pushing it forward, and it's changing its composure, and it's growing into something new, and it's inside that shell, and finally that little sprout breaks through the shell, and then it hits the soil that's surrounding the shell, but that soil is a little bit softer than the shell. It's softer than the shell. It's got more give. There's more space between it after it's cracked that shell. Then it pushes up. It pushes up. It spirals. Everything works in spirals in nature. It spirals up, and then once it gets through the earth, it spirals up through the earth, through the crust of the earth. Then this air is softer than anything. And the wind blows and it strengthens because it's flexible, and then it eventually grows into a tree. And that's us. So if you're feeling like you're in there, you're just in the shell stage and you want to break free from that shell. But that breaking free requires a solid intention. Don't put a time frame on it. Don't put a time frame on it, okay? A seed is dormant until God waters the seed. Allow God to work and water you. Allow God to grow you. This is where the surrendering nature comes into it. Like when we're in our mother's womb, God is doing all kind of stuff that our mom isn't aware of, that we're not aware of. But there's these codes. This is the integrity, right? There's these integrity codes that build our body's integrity inside the womb when we move around and we're in this thicker substance that creates our first bones and our movement of our muscles and our tissues and our lungs and our everything's moving in there. And then we're just like getting cramped in there until finally the pressure gives and we spring forward out of that seed. The placenta is like the shell. And then we come out of that seed and we come out of mom. Okay? And when we come out of mom, we come into this environment that is less dense than the environment we were just in while we were inside that thick water. We were moving around and stuff. But that was giving us the ability that when we came out here into the air, into this density, that just like the seed sprouting through, that we had the muscle ability and the lung ability, the lung capacity. If we didn't breathe underwater for those 9 months, we wouldn't be able to breathe this in. We had to develop certain lung muscles. And that was all happening outside of our mother's conscious awareness, our conscious awareness. Mom's thinking about what's she going to eat? How is the house ready for baby? And baby's just in there floating in bliss or whatever, stress, whatever. We feel everything, right? We are our mothers at that point in time. So if you're feeling like the pressure coming on and you feel the pressure, there's 2 kinds of pressure, or there's 3 kinds really. One could be the pressure of you got to break through. Now, if you've already had the breakthrough and you've moved through the dirt now, maybe the pressure is just breaking through the crust of the dirt. You're just pushing up through the dirt. Or just the pressures of the wind and the rain and the regular seasons of life as well. But identify that pressure point inside yourself, and then ask yourself just the serious questions like, what's my intention? What's my intention for this job that I'm working right now? If we know the intention for the job we're working, we'll be much more clear to why we're working there. And it can be a simple intention. My intention with this job is to pay the bills. That's why I'm doing this job. Oh, okay, word. That intention right there, knowing that intention right there kind of frees the mind up that's hip to our hop once again. We want to be hip to our hop, like even down to like, why do I use this certain toothpaste? Why do I drink this type of water? Why do I wear what I'm wearing? Why do I say what I'm saying? Why do I look at what I'm looking at? See how detailed this gets? Because every movement, our integrity is everything. Every movement we should be aware of why we're moving. Even if we're like, I'm just going with the flow right now. I'm just going where God takes me right now. That's still being hip to one's hop. It's actually very simple, right? I want to make sure that, I think sometimes we get into these deep discussions and we talk about these deep metaphysics and physics and philosophies and all these ancient masters and compare ourselves to Martin Luther King and Bruce Lee and talk about the Christ and we get into it, But always remember that the best thing about God, the best thing about life is that it's actually it's built within us. This is the integrity code. Like last week, it's just kind of built within us. It's already coded within our central nervous system. It's already coded within our breath and already coded within our knowing. All we got to do is just unlearn and let go of the ways of the world, what we were conditioned with through our grade school education. Like if you still believe a president is really a person who actually does things, then it's going to be really hard to actually believe that you can speak intelligent movement, or you could speak a spoken word and you could say something that will change the outer environment. So if you believe that Joe Biden is this guy called a president and that he actually makes decisions and he actually has power and people actually elected him, if you believe that this senile old guy is actually doing things, and that it's not a group of people that we don't see who's making decisions, and they just put him up there as an actor, as a puppet, as a distraction. If you don't understand that and see that clearly, you're going to have a very, very hard time speaking a spoken word and having it resonate back to you, empowered as you are. I've been watching and paying attention to what people are posting and who they're posting and what preacher or what spiritual guru, or be aware of where their money comes from. I'm a street level minister. Nobody pays me to do this. I don't have no congregation. Every once in a while, somebody will float me a donation, and I always appreciate the donations from my heart to your heart. Yo, that is dope. But God provides everything I need. Okay? God provides everything I need. So while I appreciate the donations and I put them to good use, I'm hip hopping with the donations that come through, I don't rely on those donations. And I never will. I'm never going to rely on a group of people to pay for my hip hop, to pay for my movement. That's not what the gospel of hip hop teaches about a minister. Because I'm never taking no faith-based initiative money to where I can't say what needs to be said. You see what I'm saying? Like these organizations, these mega churches and things like that, be mindful of it. Be mindful of the media. These people get paid by Big Pharma to promote Big Pharma. These people get paid to not pay taxes by big government to promote big government. Church, media. Now this is hip hop. Where do we come from? We come from the streets, the inner city. I grew up in the suburbs, in the burbs, suburban streets. But like Ice-T said, a ghetto is a ghetto and a street's a street. Kids in the suburbs are packing the heat. Yo, it's wild, how much money and drugs and murders and things went down just blocks away. Prostitution rings, meth houses, murderers, kidnapping, child sacrifice. Ooh, gross. And this is the environment that we as hip hop are born into. We're born in this darkness as the light of our world. We should pay attention to that. We should have some integrity about the light that we are. Because that light, that's what busts through the shell. That's what busts through the earth. That's what it sparks the tree and the growth, is the light inside the tree. And we should know what our intention is. We should be hip to our hop. Even if our hip is saying, I just got to surrender right now. I got to do what I'm doing right now. And I got to give this a couple years. I got to give this a month. Let me just find my peace right now. Let me just find my peace in everything I do. Wouldn't that be a great intention to set over these next 7 days? Peace at work, peace with family, peace online, peace in thought, peace in meditation, peace in prayer, peace when driving, peace when shopping. Wouldn't that be like an intention to set? And then being like hip to our hop and saying, I'm setting my intention this week. So as I go forward this week, I'm just going to be in peace. Now you're going to get tested. Right? You're going to get tested. That's the pressure points. That's the wind blowing. That's the strengthening right there. That's what happens. We get tested. So we may not give the best performance of our life the first week that we're focusing on peace in every moment, peace in every environment, peace in every situation. We may not experience that peace, but when we are aware that we're not experiencing the peace, that's when the light starts turning around. That's when the spark becomes something more. That's when we become consciously aware of our hip hop, of why we move, why we're doing what we do. Instead of just walking around being out of peace, deep down knowing we're not at peace, we say, I'm going to be in peace this week. I'm going to live in peace. I'm going to live in peace. And then, the peace police show up and say, hey, no peace over here, motherfucker. And they start their dissing, or they start their drama, or they start their whatever. And then you're like, I'm going to stay in my peace. Oh, get back up, hold on. And you lose your peace and you get back into it. And you say, oh man, I lost my peace today. But see that awareness of losing one's peace? That's the first step to gaining peace at all time. Just being aware when we're not in peace and saying, I'm not in peace right now. Start setting the wheels in motion to peace, to become the peace. If that's the intention, is to become the peace, to be the peace all the time that we want to see, be the peace that you want to see. This is what intention is. And this is why I'm saying, or why we're teaching this week, intention requires action. If the intention is to be peace, the action is to go forward. It requires us to act upon that peace that we're intending to feel in our lives and experience as ourselves. So we say, I need peace in all arenas of my life, no matter what. I'll take peace everywhere I'm at. Even if I hate this situation right now, I'm going to be at peace in this situation that I maybe hate. I'm going to be at peace with this situation. I'm going to be the peace in this environment. And then we go forward in that peace. That's the action. That's the performance of the action. That's the hop. That's being the hip, knowing our intention, and then the hop and the movement of our intention. Get it, my nobility? Let's put this up on the screen right here. Let's look at the definitions of intent and intention. Oh yeah, I really like this definition. Some good ones in here. There was a message from the Minista a while back called, what is your trajectory? What is your trajectory? And it talks about what we're aiming for. What are we aiming for? What are we, we're like the bow and the arrow. What is our target? What is our trajectory? What's the course of action? How are we getting there? And then what does our flight look like as we get there? What is our trajectory? Our aim. That just reminded me that had a lot to do with intention. Our hip to our hop. Why we do what we do. Why we move how we move. Intent. You'll see right here. Intent. Definition number 1. Something that is intended, an aim or a purpose. Intention is purpose. That is the why. Why do you do what you do? Why do I do what I do? Why do we do what we do? What is the intention behind our actions, behind our thinking, behind our beliefs? What is the intention backing our words? What is that intention? And what is the aim and purpose of that intention? Is there something we hope to accomplish or continue? What are we aiming towards? What is the purpose of our action? Definition number 2. Synonymous with intention. Yeah, we'll read that. Definition number 2, under law, intent. The state of one's mind at the time one carries out an action. The state of one's mind at the time one carries out an action. That's law. So like if somebody carries out an action to be gruesome, let's say somebody carries out the action and they murder somebody. What was the intention of that murder? Why did you go to their house in the first place? Was it to murder them, or wasn't, what was the intention of your actions? That's under law, but we can take this with our hip-hop consciousness, our hip-hop sight, and take this to our H law, take this to universal law even. The state of one's mind at the time one carries out an action. Intention requires what? Action. What is the state of your mind? What is the state of our mind when we're doing what we're doing? Are we doing it unconscious? Are we completely unaware? Are we unconscious? Do we not even know why we're doing what we're doing? Once we know why, we start liking it a little better when we have power over it. If it's a disagreeable situation and we don't know why we're there and we don't know what we're supposed to do, it has power over us. If it's a disagreeable situation, but we know why we're there, we know what our purpose for being there is, all of a sudden that disagreeable situation, we have power and sovereignty over the disagreeable situation. It's that easy. It's just a matter of perspective. The empowerment comes and then the change happens after the empowerment. Get the empowerment first and then just witness the change happen. See, people want to make the changes and think the changes brings the empowerment. No, the empowerment comes first and the change is secondary. Find an empowerment, an empowering perspective, because it's right there in every situation. There is an empowering perspective. It's just a shift of your perspective, a shift of our consciousness, a shift of our awareness, a shift of our sight. But then when we know and we shift that sight, then the environment changes automatically. Let the empowerment be first, and then watch the change happen secondary. Let the change be secondary. That's being unattached. Definition number 3, what's the meaning? What's the purport? What's the intent? Intent as an adjective. Definition number 1, firmly fixed, concentrated. Firmly fixed and concentrated. I am firmly fixed on my goal. I am firmly fixed on peace in my environment at all times. I am firmly fixed. My focus, my intention is on peace and prosperity for myself and my family, for my community. My intention, I am firmly focused on preserving hip hop, the original intention of hip hop. That's hip hop as consciousness. This is the preservation of hip hop as stated by the temple of hip hop in the gospel of hip hop by the teacher. Our intention is to preserve the original intent, the original spirit of hip hop. Not just the history and all that's important and all the artifacts, that's important. And all the styles, that's important. And all the language and the elements, that's all super important. That's all, the culture is important. But there was an original intention, an intent behind why cool DJ Herc jumped on the ones and twos and rocked Sedgwick and Cedar when he rocked the jam on August 11th, 1973. When he rocked that rec center, there was an intention there. The intention was to allow kids who did not have the money or the clothes to go to the discotheque, a chance to come and dance, a chance to come together in community. The intention was to raise money for his sister's back-to-school clothes. See, that intention of Kool Herc, who would play free in the parks for kids and for the community, and started the movement known as hip-hop, that intention is what we need to know. That is the origin of hip-hop. We're not just talking history, we're talking the origins of hip-hop. And as a hip-hopper, I am hip-hop, you are hip-hop. We want to know the origins of us, why we do what we do, why we think how we think. What is it about us what is the intention within us that causes us to rap, that causes us to dance, that causes us to do beautiful, colorful murals? What's the intention behind this movement, this intelligent movement? Definition number 2, having the attention applied, engrossed. Wow, being engrossed in something, just being all in, just being all in. I'm going to be all in on this relationship. Sometimes the other person ain't going to be all in. But it feels good if you all in, because then you practice what you got to do to be all in. And if they ain't all in, you won't be around them forever. You won't be around them much longer. Why? Because it takes two to make a thing go right. It takes two to make it out of sight. Both people's intention should be in a relationship to be engrossed in one another, to become one. I'm talking about man and woman here. Because the intention of the world and the intention of the media is to divide and conquer man, and to make man and woman dependent upon the state, dependent upon the institution. Therefore, their children automatically become dependent upon the institution and no longer even connected to God through family, through motherhood, through fatherhood, through brotherhood, through sisterhood. God created family for a reason. And the devil tears the family apart. Always. It's always a devil that tears a family apart. And when I'm saying that, not even saying that the person has to be the devil, but the argument could be the devil. The sin, the distrust, the lying, the cheating, all of that, those actions can be the devil. But those actions are condoned by a demonic system called the mainstream media. And everything attached to that. They have an intention. They have a directive. They know why they promote what they promote. They know why they promote what they're promoting. They know the metaphysics of every tone and sound and color that comes out of that television set, out of that computer screen. They are master manipulators using advanced AI algorithms and thousands of man-hours to distort reality. But we override that instantly. Instantly. We override that. Why? Because we're hip to our hop. We know why we're here. We know that they are temporary. We know that anything that acts like that or behaves demonically is indeed temporary. And follow it to its logical conclusion that everything ultimately will be perfected, is being perfected, is perfect. And we should be in alignment with God's perfection. We should be in alignment with God's intention for us. Having the mind and willpower. That's pushing through the dirt. That's breaking through the seed. Willpower. Focused on a specific purpose. What's your purpose? All intents and purposes. That's an old saying. For all intents and purposes. In every practical sense, practicality. For all intents and purposes, hip-hop is God's answer to our suffering. It's just practical. Let's see, from Middle English, intent. From Old French, from Medieval Latin, intentus. From Latin, an extending. Oh, an extending. Intention is an extending. From intentus, attentive to. Strained, from past participle of intender, to direct attention. Look at that. See, week 1 was attention pays. So the intention is how we direct our attention. Where we direct our attention, where we direct our attention is our intention. I direct my attention towards peace. I direct my attention towards health, love, awareness, and wealth. Because health, love, awareness, and wealth is my intention. This is foundational integrity. This is side 3, intention. Side 1, attention. Side 2, integrity. Have integrity with our attention. Integrity, have integrity with our intention. Our intentions should have integrity. It's part of the same piece. Intention. Definition number 1. A course of action that one intends to follow. A course of action that one intends to follow. That's it. We say, I'm going to go over here on Tuesday. We go over there on Tuesday. We say, I'm going to work out this evening. We work out this evening. We say, I'm going to drink water first thing in the morning with some fresh lemon squeezed in it. We drink water first thing in the morning with fresh lemon squeezed in it. A course of action that one intends to follow. Why? Because intention requires action. Definition number 2A, an aim that guides action, an objective. What is our aim? What are we aiming to? What is our I aming for? What is the direction I am in? I aim towards. What is our trajectory? What's the intention? I know I keep repeating it over and over, but this is the unlearning process, how it works for me. And I'm just sharing what I know works for me. And it will be different from when you share how it works for you. Definition number 2B, intentions. Purpose with respect to marriage. Honorable intentions. Purpose with respect to marriage. Marriage, wow. What's your intentions? Purpose with respect to marriage. I didn't even realize that was in there earlier. How interesting. Respect to marriage. You know, every time somebody got married in a TV show, they'd sleep around. Growing up, remember? That's just part of the program. That's just part of the program. Cheating in the 80s and 90s and, you know, all these television shows, there's cheating, and then people just start cheating. And then it becomes into the music, country music, rap music, all this cheating all the time. No respect to marriage, no respect to man and woman and child, no respect to the earth, the sun, the moon, the stars. No respect to nature, no respect to God and the ways of God. No respect to the ancestors. It's deviant behavior. It's delinquent behavior. But that's okay, it's just immaturity. It's just ignorance. And it's temporary. Philosophy. Definition number 3, intention in philosophy. A concept arising from directing the attention towards an object. Whew. This gets into hip-hop as consciousness. What do we intend to use that object for? Some people say, oh, that's a chair and it's going to stay a chair. But you can say, no, that chair is also a ladder. It's also a stool. This chair, if I sit on the floor, becomes my desk. I can put my computer up on this chair and I can sit down on the floor and this chair is now a desk. I can use this chair and it now becomes a wedge, a doorstop. I can use this chair and it becomes a weapon. See, that's the hip-hop sight and consciousness. Every object is something else. So what is our intention? What are we using these objects for? Do we just look at a can, an aluminum can, and say, that's an aluminum can, that's all it can be used for? Other people see that aluminum can and they say, that's an aluminum can that can be turned into a spinning wheel of art that I will make, that when the wind blows, it will spin, and I can make this incredible art through that tin can. Or I can melt down those tin cans and turn that into an aluminum something that I need, an aluminum box, That's the hip hop site. Everything is always something else. And we can also put that site to a subject. Not just an object, but a subject, like peace. Oh yeah, that's what peace looks like. No, what else does peace look like? Where else can we find peace? How can we find peace? I'm at peace meditating when sirens are blaring outside. That took practice. Definition number 4 of intentions in medicine: the process by which or the manner in which a wound heals. That's deep. The process by which or the manner in which a wound heals. If you have a wound, a spiritual wound, an energetic wound, a physical wound, send it loving intention. No matter how bad it hurts, embrace the pain. It's not going to go away until we embrace the pain and the suffering and tell the pain and the suffering, hey, I know you're suffering, but I love you anyway. I love you, suffering. I love you, pain. And I don't want you to hurt anymore. I don't want to hurt anymore like this. This is how healing begins. This is how healing begins in our heart, body, mind, and soul and spirit. We set our intention to heal. In the archaic, it means to import meaning. In the Middle English, intention, from Old French, intention, from Latin, intentio, intention, from intentios, intent, from past participle of intendence, to direct attention. Oh, intender, to direct attention, to direct our attention. What are we directing our attention to? Are we hip to our hop? What we direct our attention to is our intention. That's our hip to our hop. This is when we get into like the God force, the God nature, the God mind. And I say this because you'll find out rather quickly that with the proper and improper use of intention, okay? There is an improper use, and God allows us to improperly use our intention and then have to live with the consequences of misusing our intention, so we kind of learn what not to do. A lot of times we learn who we are by first experiencing who we are not. And then once we say, I'm not that person, or I'm not that, that's not me, I'm this. Then we know, I'm this. This is who I am. I'm not that. I'm this. This is who I am. I'm not that guy who used to wallow in depression and be sad and be over emotional and be triggered all the time. I'm not that guy. I'm this guy here, I'm not that kid who used to whine and cry out. I'm just speaking for anybody. You know in your own mind. I'm not that guy who used to just give all his attention and give all his money and give all his resources to anybody. I learned my lessons. I learned how to set healthy boundaries. And then that intention is setting the healthy boundary. That's being hip to one's hop. Setting healthy boundaries is hip hop. Setting healthy boundaries with people is hip hop. And when we really want to set the right intention, we seek God's guidance, guiding our direction. We seek God's voice. We seek God's heart. We seek the feeling of God, the knowing of God. God, what do you intend for me? What's your purpose for me? What's your will, plan, and purpose for my life? Those answers are going to come. How many times have you asked God, it should be just, God, what's your will, plan, and purpose for me today? God, what's your will, plan, and purpose for my life? The seventh sense. In the seventh sense, we read this a couple weeks ago. It was actually the first message from the Minista after my dad passed. It was part 3 of, we read through the whole seventh sense. And at the end there's a part that talks about speaking to the intelligence of our day, setting our intention to our day. And this is where this morning meditation that I've been talking about every week comes in, is that It's wise to set the intention when we get up in the morning. We take that 18 minutes, we take that 20 minutes, and we set the intention for our day. We just sit down in meditation, in prayer, in affirmation, and we set the intention for our day. We speak to the intelligence of our day in this way. And now, the day is experienced differently by everybody else. Everybody experiences their day differently. So the concept, the idea of the day is within us. Even though some people have the same experiences every day, because they're experiencing what the system is giving them, the matrix is giving them. But those of us who are awake and say, hey, wait a minute, my day is going to present itself the way I speak to it. So if I speak peace into my day, I speak prosperity into my day, then I'm going to receive that back to me. Okay, word, bet. That's what's up. See, so you might wake up with a lot to do and some anxieties and things, and then just sit there and visualize yourself accomplishing what it is we want to accomplish. We just visualize ourselves accomplishing the 5 or 6 things or the list of things we know we got to do that day. But sitting down for that 18 minutes in the morning, first, brush the teeth, take a leak, whatever, drink some water, tea, whatever it is, but sitting down in the morning, first thing, and setting the intention to the day. And then visualizing. I got to go over here today. I'm going to visualize myself getting from here to there smoothly. There's going to be parking when I arrive there. They're going to have what I need there. When I get there, I'm going to move smoothly. You can even do this with the DMV. You set the intention of the day, speak to the intelligence of the day. That's using what we call the 7th sense. Beyond intuition, which is next week's lesson, beyond even intuition, there's the 7th sense, where we just know, we just visualize, we just see, we just be, we're just being. We am, I am hip to my hop, I am hip hop, my intention is hip hop. Let me hip hop in and out of my environment this today. Let me just set my intention today. See? So when we set our intention on an ideal like peace, we set that intention for the day, and then we experience that intention in the day. It's simple. This is what we call practical metaphysics. These metaphysics always work. 100% of the time, they always work. Right on time. Right how they're supposed to. There's deeper levels to it. There's deeper levels. God's going to reveal deeper levels. So let that be the warning. Let that be the warning. That there's deeper levels to it. Because God will have us come face to face with some deep, dark demons, deep within inside of us, we're really just bad ideas. Let's not even call them demons. God will take us down to some really bad ideas that we've been given by the world or by family or by whatever. We've been given some really bad ideas, like the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So we never even look at what it means to have a good intention is, and how do we act upon those intentions, and how do we even know, are we hip to our intention? What are we intending to do? So we get these bad ideas deep rooted, and some of them are like self-hatred and God hates me and all this ugliness, that just these subconscious programs that are deep within us, and God wants to uproot those, bring those to the light, transmute those into the light, back into unconditional love, back into truth, back into freedom. God wants us to be free. So be wise with this. Just know this ahead of time. You might start having peace at your job, but then all of a sudden finding a deeper and deeper and deeper level to this. God wants the light to shine within from without. This is the healing of the nations. This is what real healing is. This is what the inner work of the inner man and the inner woman is. That's action. Intention requires action. The action is doing the inner work. The inner work, finding the inner peace. And then it doesn't matter if the inner self is at peace. It doesn't matter. We can't blame the environment. My inner self is at peace. This thing is vibrating crazy. I may need to get out of here. I may need to change the situation. But if I'm just at peace right here, my peace will cause me to have a wider, more expanded peripheral vision. My peace will allow me to see more options. My peace will have me not hurrying or rushing or racing and falling behind. My peace will allow me to be hip to my hop and just flow within my environment. That's my peace. Water is peace. Even when it's rushing, there's a peace to it. And never underestimate the integrity that God has already gifted us inside. This is already within us. This is just who we are. This is just our nature. Hip hop is our nature. Intelligent movement is who and what we are. So when we are that, we just be that. And when you be it, you see it. You see it in the outer environment. You see? All right, let's put it up here. We're going to read from the Gospel of Hip Hop this week. And as you can see up on the screen, we're reading Divine Performance, Perform Action, which is Divine Performance number 16 on page, what is this? Page 184. Page 184 in the Divine Performance, the third overstanding in the Gospel of Hip Hop, the Divine Performance. The Gospel of Hip Hop is written by the teacher, KRS-One, and presented to the Temple of Hip Hop. And I, Zin Uru, am a recognized intellectual and spiritual contributor to the Gospel of Hip Hop. And the Gospel of Hip Hop is urban inspirational metaphysics. This is the teacher's I am hip hop philosophy in action. This is a urban survival kit, a urban survival guide. And always remember, it is the finger pointing to the moon. It is the finger pointing to the greater experience that you are as hip hop. So as this is not just instructions. These are helpful instructions here that we're reading. But there's still finger. This is still a sign. This is words are pointing you and pointing us to an actual experience called hip hop, to an actual experience called God. Divine Performance number 16, perform action. The most important thing to know of oneself is one's purpose. And we just read that intention is purpose. The most important thing to know of oneself is one's purpose. The fulfillment of one's life purpose is the cause of true joy and happiness. Do not become idle or live without purpose. Although you may be still seeking your purpose, perform action. Now see that? Although you may be still seeking your purpose, perform action. See, you may even say to God, God, I don't know what my purpose is. God, will you reveal my purpose? That's the path right there. That's the action right there. Never just sit around being unaware of the effects of your actions or your non-action. The attuned hip-hopper shows others through example what righteousness, love, justice, charity, and overstanding looks like. The attuned hip-hopper is aware of how her actions teach society. Such a hip-hopper knows that every social act is a lesson performed in and for one's family, friends, and larger society. See, people say all the time, I ain't no role model. Wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong. God created us all role models. What role are we modeling? Are we modeling the roles of pimps, thugs, gangsters, liars, drug addicts, cheats, degenerates, delinquents? Or are we rolling the model of teachers, of ministers, of friends, of family, of love, of light, of peace, of unity, of love, of having fun, of health, love, awareness, and wealth? What role are we modeling? The streets is always watching. For every cause or act, there is an effect or response. Be aware of what you cause to exist through your thinking and your actions. We are the offspring of our own actions. We actually create ourselves through action, which is motivated by purpose. Look at that. We actually create ourselves through action, which is motivated by purpose. So what is your purpose? If you lack direction or purpose in life, focus your mind upon the action of your teacher. Pay attention to the way that your teacher performs in action and imitate those performances. Know that your teacher is impartial to success or failure. See, my nobility, become impartial to success or failure. Failure turns into wisdom. Mistakes turn into wisdom. Therefore, failure becomes success. Making mistakes turn into wisdom. Just be impartial to success or failure, because we will learn from both. See how your teacher is not attached to the effects of the act. See, there's being unattached again. Feel how your teacher not only gives, but sacrifices. You're making sacrifices in your life. If you say, I got to go here and do this because I got to pay the bills for my kids to eat, that's the hip hop. I know I'm just sacrificing my time, but it's for the cause of the future of my children. Like, that is beautiful. That is wonderful. Know that. When we know why we do what we do, our perspective shifts, our empowerment changes, and then actual change takes place. It's beautiful. It's wonderful how God works. The attuned hip-hopper understands that even while acting, we do nothing at all. The attuned hip-hopper knows that all is the great oneness deity. And it is only God, see God, great oneness deity, that actually acts. Check this out. This is deep. When we are eating, breathing, talking, walking, working, driving, etc., we really do nothing at all. Only God through nature is moving, which gives us the temporary appearance of movement. The attuned hip-hopper does not act nor cause action when it is understood that all action is the divine performance of God. We are actually the effects of God in action. Like when the wind blows dried leaves across a road, the leaves have no sense of the wind blowing them along, yet the leaves move. Physical bodies have movement in a similar way. Forces, winds, blow against us and push us towards this circumstance or that circumstance. We must learn to navigate the forces, the winds of life, towards the fulfillment of our life's purpose. See this right here? This is the intention. We must learn to navigate the forces, the winds of life towards the fulfillment of our life's purpose. Navigate those winds of life. Navigate through the storms of life. Navigate yourself through life. That's where having a map, meditation, affirmation, prayer, and study, having some good maps, having a gospel of hip hop, that's where this helps to navigate through life. However, such navigation has more to do with allowing the force to carry you without you getting in your own way. Whew. However, such navigation has more to do with allowing the force to carry you without you getting in your own way. Spiritual navigation has to do with allowing God to guide your life. It's about God's leadership in your life. Some people regard God's leadership in their lives as a choice. They say, I now give my life to God, as if they had the authority to do such a thing. The leadership of God in your life is not a choice. It is the truth. It's a realization, an awakening, a new awareness, a sense of giving up and letting go on your part. The leadership of God is happening now. It is you who must realize this by releasing. Release it. Release your fears, your doubts, and your disbeliefs about your own God force. Just release it now. Let's just right now, all of us, thank you for being here, by the way. Didn't even get to that part. Across all time and space, we are all gathered here now in this place. And right now, this awareness that goes across all time and space knows. And we now say, We just release our fears, our doubts, and disbeliefs about our own God force. You just say, yes, I release. And there it is. We must get in harmony with what God is already doing in our lives. See that? We just get in harmony with what God is already doing in our lives. We talk about this every week. Just being in harmony with what God is already doing. When we find ourselves in pain or suffering or disbelief or hurt or whatever it is, all we got to do is just get in harmony with what God is already doing. It's already present. It's already here. It's already now. It's already with us. That's the integrity. That's the wholeness. That's the oneness. And then our intention is to be in alignment with God, to be in harmony with God. Know this, when our will is not the will of our God, we naturally begin to experience pain and suffering. The will of our God is for Hippapas to be joyous, at peace, and prosperous. That's the will of our God, is for us to be joyful, peaceful, and prosperous. Our God's will is occurring long before we come to realize it. And those things which happen against our will are usually for our own good. Come on, my nobility. We have to grow past this knowing. And I'm saying that with all due respect because we know this. And we keep being reminded of it. Let's just be it. Those things which happen against our will are usually for our own good. For God sustains life itself. You do not choose God. God chooses you. I don't know how that makes y'all feel, but I feel wonderful knowing God chose me. Of all these billions of people, God chose me. God chose you. You didn't choose God. God chose you. And when God chose you, and when God chooses us, the suffering is our resistance to God has chosen us. We say, why me, God? I don't want it, God. I don't know. I'm confused. What's our attachment to the world when God is pulling us out of the world? It's our attachment to the world that causes suffering. An attachment to the world is being unattached to God, but when we attach ourselves to God, then God just moves us with incredible force. And we can receive that. We let go of the doubt, the fear, and the disbelief. Remember, worry is denial of God. Because life is sustained by God, every act of the Hippapa should be performed as a tribute and sacrifice to God. That's what Krishna tells Arjuna, what detachment is. Just performing every action as a tribute and sacrifice to God. That's Krishna's message to Arjuna. Arjuna, just do what I'm asking and perform it as a tribute and a sacrifice to God. No work or person is too difficult to deal with when all is done as a tribute and a service to your God. With this, the attuned Hippapa escapes the cycles of cause and effect because the attuned Hippapa causes nothing and is detached from everything. Only God is moving, acting, and speaking. Whew! This is enlightenment. This is it. I'm going to read this part again. With this, the attuned Hippapa escapes the cycles of cause and effect because the attuned Hippapa causes nothing and is detached from everything. Only God is moving, acting, and speaking. Perform difficult activities knowing this. E.L. Magoon once said, existence was given us for action rather than indolent and aimless contemplation. Our worth is determined by the good deeds we do rather than by the fine emotions we feel. They greatly mistake who suppose that God cares for no other pursuit than devotion. Perform action. That last piece by E.L. Magoon, that's deep. Let's talk about that for a minute. God's not impressed by the fine emotions we feel or the good thoughts that we think. It's about the actions that we perform. It's about what we do. that helps humanity, that helps relieve human suffering, that helps relieve our own suffering, that helps relieve God's suffering, that helps relieve the earth's suffering. We have high ideals. God chooses us, but what God chooses us is for hard work at times. And what I mean by hard work is God may choose us to clean up, and we're a tool of God to clean up the piss and shit and vomit of the world, like it talks about, and perform patience or perform forgiveness. This path isn't easy. This path ain't for suckers. God is the divine, righteous path. God is the path of love, of sacrifice, of care, of intention. That's the Christ within us. Minister G. Simone's acronym for CROSS, C-R-O-S-S, cross, constant reminder of self-sacrifice. The acrinologist G. Simone, CROSS, constant reminder of self-sacrifice. That's why sometimes we've got to do things that we may not want to do. I didn't want to take care of my dad every day for the last 3-4 years. I didn't want to be homebound like this. I didn't want to do this, but I did want to do it because I needed to do it. I need to fulfill my duty. I need to live my purpose. I need to do what it is that God is asking me to do. And although it's a sacrifice, and it was a constant reminder of self-sacrifice, the gems, the jewels, the lessons learned, the empowerment that came from surrender to God has been the greatest gift I could ever receive and ask for. And I didn't ask for it. I did what was being asked of me. I was detached from the outcome. God didn't say, hey, Zin, if you do this over the next 3.5 years, I'm going to give you this enlightenment. I'm going to let you see the rainbow bridge. I didn't ask for that. I didn't know that. Because it's just God said, Zin, this is what you need to do. Okay, let me do this. Let me go with the flow. There was resistance from other people. All of a sudden I couldn't travel and do stuff, you know? But when we surrender to God and we do the difficult things that we don't want to do, we perform responsibility, there will be a time when that situation, that environment, or that place, it just doesn't exist anymore. And then how we give our divine performance determines what God can reveal to us, what God can show us, how we grew, how we firmly planted our roots, how we added structure to ourselves, how we built that foundation for ourselves. So this isn't about avoiding difficult circumstances. This is about mastering difficult circumstances. Bruce Lee says something to the effect of, don't pray for an easy life. Pray for the power to endure a hard one or overcome a hard one. See, we don't God, just make my life easier. God, will you just make my life easier? You keep praying that, God's going to keep making it harder. God, how do I overcome this situation? God, how do I master this situation? God, what are you asking of me here and now? Why do you got me here, God? Because once you know why God has you here, then you're hip to your hop. God is always hip to your hop. God always knows why God is doing what God is doing to you, through you, and as you. You don't. We don't always. But we can. Because it's always present. God's intention, God's presence, God's purpose, God's will, plan, and purpose. It's always here. God's nature all around us, always here. It's always going on. Before we know it, while we're doing it. So we fall off of that. We get out of alignment with it. We just need to get back in alignment with it. It's that easy. And the alignment starts with our intention. Intention requires action. So we start our alignment. We say, God, I know I'm out of alignment. My intention is just get back into harmony and alignment with you. Harmony with God. God's going, oh, and we're going, ah. Then we go, God's going, oh, and then we go, oh, and we're both going, oh, you know. We get in harmony with God. With what already is going on and daily in our lives, going on daily, God. We get in harmony with that. And we set our intention to get in harmony with it, even if we don't know how to get in harmony with it. We set that intention, and then that intention itself is going to bring new ideas, new inspirations. It's just going to start happening because the intention has been set. Then we're hip to our hop. We know why we're moving. We know why we're doing what we're doing, and we come in alignment with what God's intention for us already. And it can happen instantaneously. Like you could be feeling one way one moment and completely different in the next moment. And nothing outside of you has changed. It's this, it's the inside, it's the internal, it's the inner knowing, it's the inner strength, it's the inner city. That's what it's about. If you keep trying to change this to feel good in here, you can change this all the time. You can change jobs, you can change partners, you can change everything. Philosophies, you can change everything. The way you dress, the way you talk. And maybe some of those things are important. I'm not discounting that. But if you're doing that to change how you feel in here, you're never going to feel right in here. It's when we set our intention to feel right in here, that the things that don't, this stuff just, either our perspective changes, therefore the environment changes us from a perspective shift, or we're completely just moved out of the environment to a more harmonious environment that God has us in. But it's the surrender right in here. It's the surrender to God. It happens internally. Last week, I read from Secret of the Golden Flower. We each had set our intention for an ideal that week. And I read from Secret of the Golden Flower. And this week, the same thing happened. The intention of, what did we say last week intention was to meditate on a self-empowerment goal. So I'll put this up here on the screen. Well, first there, Secret of the Golden Flower by Thomas Clary, classic Chinese book of life, the authoritative new translation by Thomas Clary. Okay, the Secret of the Golden Flower. I'll put this up here on the screen. This is the paragraph that I meditated on. You can see I got it handwritten here, but I'm going to read it here. Okay. It's actually these two paragraphs. It kind of reads as one paragraph. Eventually, after a long time, all of a sudden, even the subtle will be interrupted, and the true breathing will appear, whereupon the substance of mind will become perceptible. This is just amazing. This is because when mind is subtle, breath is subtle. When mind is unified, it moves energy. When breath is subtle, mind is subtle. When energy is unified, it moves mind. Stabilization of mind must be preceded by development of energy, because the mind has no place to set to work on. So focus on energy is used as a starting point. That is what is called the preservation of pure energy. Pure energy. Pure energy. A great 80s song. See this right here, my nobility? The mind, when it is unified, it moves energy. And when energy is unified, it moves mind. So focus on energy is used as a starting point. And this is what is called the preservation of pure energy. So my meditation this week, building off turning the light around. Last week the meditation was turning the light around, where the mind is like a violent general from a strong fight, them fighting battles from afar, And then we turn the light around, we turn the sword of the general back around, and then that general then is transmuted into the hero of our inner city, into the hero of who we are internally. We turn that light around, and then we start looking at what's going on inside of us. And so that piece, how it fit into this piece is, as I was going inside myself and working this week and realizing that a lot of things that we call emotions or ideas are just words and formulas and spells that we put onto actual energy to describe actual energy. So we might feel something like a deep sadness, and We say, oh, that's depression. But depression is the colonizer's language. So we say, oh, this is clinical example of depression. And then we start believing all this other stuff and start setting the mind into this other realm of colonizer thinking. When in actuality, that feeling of depression is just an energy. The feeling is an energy within us. And so what the secret of the golden flower is saying is that just turn the light of the mind and speak and be and live and feel the energy directly. Calming the energy directly. Instead of defining the energy as depression or sadness or anger or whatever it is, just feel the energy without giving it definition. Just let the energy be the energy. And then start working with the energy at that level of just pure energy. And then the energy becomes transmuted. I've noticed this. The energy just becomes a more solid transmutation, a more crystallized, more crystallographic energy. Because instead of dealing with it as a problem or as a word or a definition or all this other stuff, just dealing with it as an energy directly. Yo, I got this weird feeling in my gut. Instead of saying, why do I have this weird feeling in my gut? Oh, it's because so-and-so said this, and I got all worried about this, and now I'm all caught up in the story now. We just skip the story and go right to the source and say, I have this weird energy in my stomach. It feels like I got this anxious energy in my stomach, and I'm not even calling it anxious. I just got this energy in my stomach. Let me just look at it. Let me love it. Let me transmute it. Let me care for it. Let me listen to it. Let me study it. Let me feel it. Let me just be with it. Let my intention be to transmute this energy into something that feels better. See, then we get out of our own way there. We just get out of our own way. And then that's the mind moving the energy. That's the mind shifting the energy. That's the mind transmuting the energy. And then the transmuted energy begins moving the mind into a more positive, more holistic, more clear-sighted, more hip to its hop direction. That was the meditation for last week. So this week, in closing, there will be 7 more days of 18 minutes every morning, week 3, okay? 4 weeks of this to set an intention, to set an ability to do this on the daily, to speak to, like the seventh sense says, to speak to the intelligence of our day. And so this week, the meditation is to set a goal, set an intention for this week. I want to experience this. I want to accomplish this. Set a goal or accomplishment this week, and then work on it. Meditate on it. Visualize yourself working on it. I got to write a song. I'm going to write a song this week. I'm going to write and record a song this week. I'm going to start and say, I'm going to write and record a song this week. I'm going to handwrite that down, put it on my altar, and meditate on that, and then visualize myself writing the song. And with visualization, feel the visualization. Feel how good it feels to accomplish recording the song. Feel how good it feels to accomplish the writing of the song. Be like, yo, wow, this just felt so good. This is the dopest lyrics I ever wrote. Feel that before you write the lyrics. And that's the intention that's being set, the feeling. The feeling is the intention being set. The outcome is the intention being set. And then performance of action, put some work into it this week. Meditate on something, a goal, make it a good goal. It doesn't have to be the biggest goal. It doesn't have to be the biggest life-changing goal you ever made. It could be if you want. But make it a doable goal. Make it a goal that you know you're going to have to push yourself. You know you're going to have to, just come, but you'll know what it is. Just set a goal. Maybe it's a dietary goal. Maybe it's an exercise goal. Maybe it's a cutting something out goal. I'm going to get rid of caffeine this week if that's where you're at. I don't know. I'm going to stop drinking alcohol this week. I'm going to, set the intention. I'm going to stop drinking alcohol and start drinking more water this week. There's an intention, okay? And then you write that down, and then you visualize yourself doing it, feel how it feels, follow through with it. And then the willpower, resist the temptation. Temptation's our worst enemy, and discipline is our best friend. So be in that discipline with yourself this week, my nobility, as we go forward in health, love, awareness, and wealth. This is foundational integrity. Next week, we're going to get to intuition. Woo, that's going to be a good one. With intuition, the final piece of this puzzle, the final piece of this square, the final piece of this foundation, intuition, next week. There it is, my nobility, health, love, awareness, and wealth, peace, and prosperity as you go forward in this week. Much love to you, warm-hearted love. Spread that warm-hearted love to those around you. Feel that warm-hearted love radiating out of you, even if the world is going crazy. Just be the warm-hearted love. You don't got to give it. You just be it. And there it is. Hey!